So if you thought episode 3 of season 1 of Netflix's Alice in Borderland was emotionally rough, watch out for season 2. The cards are almost gone. So will Arisu and Usagi make it out? Arisu and Usagi are chasing the mystery of Borderland in order to return to their real world. They meet their friends, enemies, and the mastermind behind the game at a place that seems to be the key to unlocking the mystery. When all the cards are collected, will they be able to return to their real world? Holy crap, this season is tense and emotional, but in some very different ways. The first season of this Japanese thriller was fast-paced and full of peril for the characters. And while peril and danger is still present, some of this takes on a slower pace as the characters work to conquer the remaining face cards. But that also means that the challenges are harder and the stakes can be even higher. This season starts off with an incredibly insane action sequence that is a bit harrowing and certainly blood pressure raising. And there's a danger that's introduced, and I love how it's an almost ever-present threat throughout the season. In these 8 episodes, we're really diving more into the characters and getting insight into their current states of mind. And they're also under the impression that they're not actually in their world, but some other place, which then drives them to conquer all the remaining face cards. Now, I love how the games in this are really simple in concept. Like, there's a game of tag, or dodgeball, or even guess the symbol. But as always, just because the premise is simple, the actual execution requires nerve, cunning, and even ruthlessness. While we really got to see a ton of Arisu in season 1, now that he's been to the beach and met new people, we're getting to know others that have teamed up with him, like Chishiya, Tata, Aguni, Anne, Kuina, Niragi, and then we even meet a few more along the way. Now, this season delves heavily into personalities and motivations. And these are very complex characters, and their pasts and baggage play a massive part in how they behave during the games. Now, I love that we also get glimpses into their backgrounds as challenges arise, showcasing why they chose a certain action. And this works to give a lot of the scenes some huge emotional impact. Now, I mentioned that this season has a different pace to it, and while there are still a ton of sequences that are high energy, filled with anxious urgency, there's also a patience to some of the storytelling where the episodes don't rush to finish the game for the sake of runtime. There are several times when a game in this show will span across 2 episodes, so this makes it much easier to binge, but it also allows for more character depth to be examined during the games. There are a couple of times where we see more of a game montage, so not every single game is shown in depth, but the ones that are, they use the opportunity to endear us more to the characters and get engaged with them even more deeply than we already may be. There's one game towards the beginning of the season, and it lasts quite a while, but the characters we meet within this, as well as the conversations that take place, and then the character moments, they're outstanding. There are even some highly philosophical sequences within these episodes that work to not only guide Arisu, but also have him examine his life and motivations more intimately. And because this is really his story, even though, we do follow multiple characters, Arisu is the central focus and the one we watch to see what he learns and what that means for his future. In 2 other sequences, we watch Chishiya play games that involve intense strategy, and I just love his quiet and nonchalant attitude where he kind of just sits back and observes. And we also get to see into his past this season, and he quickly became one of my favorite characters. I also like how this season, there weren't really too many antagonists among the players. There are 1 or 2, but for the most part, the main obstacles came from those that were running the games, meaning that a lot of this demanded teamwork. But then the tension arose from whether or not the teammates could be trusted. Another aspect of the patient storytelling that I absolutely loved came at the end of the show. And this last episode, it's probably the longest, at like an hour and 20 minutes. But I really appreciate how the story takes the time to play the story out. We get some resolutions, and while most shows just kind of wrap up quickly and roll the credits, this took probably 20-ish minutes, if not more, to let everything naturally find the conclusion, leaving it to feel very earned, unrushed, and then extremely satisfying. Plus, because this is such a mysterious story, there needs to be some exposition to fill in the details, and the show knocks it out of the park by showing us a ton versus just telling it to us. And I love this because it makes all that time invested feel worth it. Okay, so because these games that the players take part in are typically violent, and they usually don't have many winners, the threat level is extremely high. And this season's no different. So there are times where we were gasping and yelling at the TV because of how stressful situations became and what the outcomes were. Now, if you thought episode 3 of the first season was rough and heartbreaking, there's more to come here, and I wasn't ready for it. Now, if you've been rooting for Arisu and Usagi to become a couple, I'm not going to spoil that, but we do see care and concern grow between them, even if it's just to become intense friends. Now, I love the imagery that's created between Arisu and Usagi's names, Alice and the rabbit. But unlike the white rabbit in the Lewis Carroll story, Usagi is caring and helpful and welcomes Arisu's company. Now, I'm in love with the world building for this season. While we've been seeing Tokyo emptied with abandoned cars and buildings just all over the place, in this season, we begin to see a transformation to the city. And the graphics, they're immersive and awesome. I also really enjoyed how this messed with the story and added layers of complications to what's been going on. While it doesn't necessarily make things harder for those that are playing the games, it does affect the realities of what they may be. And because of the amount of violence in this, there's a fair amount of special effects that are utilized to showcase kills. Most of the time, they're pretty convincing. And there are moments when characters might get shot and the timing of the bullet hits and the body reactions, they're not exact, but they still look convincing enough and are showcased in quick and chaotic scenarios, so the effects aren't necessarily the main focus of what's going on. And sometimes fire or explosions also look a bit lacking, but I was able to overlook them because of how invested I was in the story and the characters. Now, had they not been so captivating, the effects that were a bit wonky would have been much more of an issue. Something this show has done consistently well is messing with my mind. And as we get towards the end of this season, there are some interactions that may had me just going, whoa. And then it would turn everything on its head and have me really question what was real. And the fact that it's done convincingly and patiently, the storytelling sucked me in more than I already was. I mean, I was riveted to the screen and didn't want to look away for even a second on maybe just the off chance that I'd miss a clue that would provide answers. Now, I'm not sure if this is the final season or if there are more planned, but the way this season concludes, either are a possibility and both would be welcomed. If this is the last, then it's extremely satisfying and it provides a lot of answers. If they are going to continue, then the answers have created a larger question. Now, I'm all for continuing on with this show because it's immersive, enveloping, chaotic, stressful, heartbreaking, and incredibly exciting. I love how different of a show this is to most things that are out, and while I loved the first season, I enjoyed this one even more. So overall, Season 2 of Alice in Borderland is an emotionally draining thrill ride, filled with mystery and anxiety with dynamic characters worthy of attention. The world building is captivating and work to complement the various themes that are examined, providing avenues for introspection not only for the characters, but the audience as well. The morality play contained in this series is intense and pointed, but also filled with truth, showcasing the characters' true selves in the face of adversity. While the storytelling is more patient compared to the previous season, it works to engage the audience with earned emotion rather than cheap thrills. The show understands how to take a very simple game like tag and make it one of the most nail-biting sequences thanks to compressed time frames and claustrophobic settings. I'm in love with the show and I am so excited that this second season surpassed my anticipation. There's sex, nudity, a ton of profanity, and just a crap load of brutal violence. I give Season 2 of Alice in Borderland 5 out of 5 couches. So are you a fan of this show? Who's your favorite character? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.